We have already studied a large number of the viruses of the human beings, the viruses of the animals, viruses of the bacteria, and also the viruses of the plants also. So here we will see just a bird's eye view of the viruses of the plants and their viroids. The viruses of the plants, of course, the plant viruses are those viruses which will cause the disease, which will cause the infection in the plants. Like other viruses, the plant viruses, the obligate intracellular parasites. Of course, the viruses are obligate intracellular parasites. They are incapable of replicate itself. They need some host to replicate itself, whether the host is animal, whether the host is bacteria, whether the host is human beings, or whether the host is plants, but they need the host for its replication and for its propagation. So they are the intracellular obligate parasites. They don't have the molecular machinery to replicate without a host. They can be pathogenic. Most of the viruses are the pathogenic to the higher plants. Just like we have taken the example of the two of the viruses of the plants viruses. One is the tomato and other is the leaf curl virus. The pepper mild mottle virus, here you can see what kind of the disease it can cause on the tomatoes, and similarly on the leaf of curl virus, which is causing the disease on the leaves, and leaves have become the curled in shape in the morphology, which is the abnormal morphology. It's very clear from the picture, it is not the normal morphology. So what are the plant viruses general characteristics? Most plant viruses are the rod shaped with protein discs forming a tube surrounding the viral genome. They are isometric particles. Most of the time they are the rod shapes. However, the isometric particles are also in common shapes. So there are two common shapes of the viruses of the plant viruses. One of them is the rod shapes with the protein disc and forming a tube surrounding the viral genome, while other is the isometric shape. The morphology is the isometric shape. And most of the time they are non-enveloped viruses. They don't have an envelope in the plant viruses most of the time. However, there may be enveloped viruses. The great majority have an RNA genome which is usually small and single stranded. Most of the time they are single stranded, with the RNA viruses are causing the disease in the plants. However, there may be the possibility of the double stranded RNAs or the single stranded DNAs, or even the double stranded DNA genomes. DNA viruses are also capable of causing the disease in the plants, and most probably the higher plants. The plant viruses are not well understood as their animal counterparts. The research, as far as the research is concerned, it is not as common as more frequent research has been done on the animal viruses, because they are concerned with, we have most of the time is studied the human beings and then the animals, and the plant viruses has not been given so much attention. Therefore, it is not easy, it is not well understood as far as their animal counterparts. One plant virus has become ionic. However, one is tobacco mosaic virus has been studied to a large extent, because this was very important and this has caused the disease, and the virus has been, the first virus was discovered was the tobacco mosaic virus. Therefore, it has been studied to a large number. Therefore, there is other viruses are caused about 60 billion of the loss in the crop yields worldwide each year. Just like the tobacco mosaic viruses or the other plant viruses, the viruses are capable of causing the disease, and it is causing the economical losses of the about $60 billion. Plant viruses are grouped into 73 genera and 49 families altogether. At this moment, we have been able to recognize the plant viruses, which are about 73 genera and 49 families. However, these figures relate only to cultivated plants, which represent only a tiny fraction of the total number of the plant species. So that's why I called it, until now we are able to see these numbers, because these are only with the cultivated plants. We are also not given a big attention for the viruses or for the plants diseases. How the viruses of the plants has been transmitted? Of course, the transmission is not as similar to the animals, because the plants are just present at one place. They are not unable to move. Therefore, the transmission will be very important, and the transmission will be a different way. To transmit from the one plant to another plant and from one cell to another cell, plant viruses must have the strategies which are different from the animal viruses. Most of the time, these strategies involve the vectors. The vectors may be the insects, Plants don't move. Plant to plant transmission usually involve the vectors, and vectors may be the insects in the form of the insects, and also the virus will be transmitted through the injury or the physical contacts. The injury may be caused to the viruses by some medication or by the animals. The plants are surrounded by solid cell walls, therefore transmit through the plasmodesmata. The plants have specialized mechanisms for transporting mRNAs through the plasmodesmata. So, this is the plasmodesmata is very important from the plant's point of view and from the transmission of the viruses. Now, the plant's defense system, whether the plants can defend themselves, whether the virus will use this host machinery. So, plant defense system against a viral infection include another major use of the siRNAs, which are very important, and then the response to the double stranded RNAs. The siRNAs can respond in the plant viruses to respond against the double stranded RNAs. Most plant viruses encode a protein to suppress this response. And the plants also reduce transport through plasmodesmata. We have already studied in response to the injury, because most of the transmission of the viruses is through the injury, through the physical contact, through the animals. So, in this way we can, and the plants can show their own defense system.